Geis uses the power of ghost to attack Sugo. Geis says he has nothing against the present Sugo, but he must do this for the future. He prepares a ghost finish time Omega time burst attack at Sugo, but Tsukuyumi blocks it in her time machine. Tsukuyumi tells Sugo to run for it. He notices a bike watch on his arm, so he uses it to summon his bike. Geis also has a bike and he chases after Sugo only to lose him when Sugo hides by the side of the road. Tsukuyumi finds Geis, who is upset with her stopping him from finishing off would-be Ohma Zi-O. He asks why she did that, but she isn't sure herself. Elsewhere, Uru taps the basketballer's forehead and he rises. He inserts another watch into him and he's back to being another build. Sugo runs into Waz again. He introduces himself and says unlike Tsukuyumi-kun and Geis-kun, he is Sugo's ally. Waz says according to his book, Sugo will be crowned king of time by walking the path of military conquest. There are time-jackers who are trying to prevent this from happening. Is everyone trying to rewrite history? Sugo asks. Waz says yes and that he is the only one who is trying to preserve the original timeline. He will do everything he can to make sure Sugo stays on the path to becoming the Demon King. As they are walking along, Tsukuyumi and Geis encounter another build sucking in some baseball players. Geis initially says they should just ignore them, but he henshins after all and takes on another build. Sugo arrives back at the shop and is surprised to see Waz waiting for him. Waz says he forgot to tell him about another build, that is Kamen Rider build. Sugo remembers meeting Sento and says another build is an imposter. But Waz says the time jackers have changed history and another build is now the real build. Waz is not sure what has happened to Sento. But Sugo cannot defeat another build. He then tells him that Geis is fighting it right now. Sugo hurries over and is able to shield Guais and Tsukuyumi from another build's baseball attack. Sugo asks if they're okay before he goes over to fight another build. Tsukuyumi and Geis are now really unsure if Sugo is indeed the Ohma Zi-O they know. Sugo delivers a time break kick at another build. But another build just pops up. Sugo realizes he must find the real build so he hurries off. Sugo heads to Nisita and opens the fridge door, only to find a fridge. Just then, two familiar faces walk into the cafe, excited after having just attended a Tsunejaizu concert. Sugo approaches them, but they don't remember him. Sugo says he's from the future and asks if he can borrow build and cross Z, but they have no idea what he's talking about. Geis is able to destroy another build. That seems to snap Sento and Ryuga out of it and they pull out watches from their pockets. Sento seems to remember something and hands the now filled watch over to Sugo, telling Ryuga to do the same. Geis is forced to henshin. Sugo arrives and he has realized what they have to do. He hands Geis the Cross Z watch and says they must go back in time to fight another build with build. Sugo and Geis hop into their time masons and make their way back to 2017. Another build continues rampaging and sucking people into bottles. Sento and Ryuga arrive. Another build runs over to Ryuga and hugs him as they are a best match. Ryuga pushes another build off of him and runs over to Sento. Sento and Ryuga henshin, but their power appears to be unstable. Another build swallows the swimming and archery bottles it made earlier and attacks Sento and Ryuga. But Sugo and Geis arrive just in time. Sento and Ryuga run towards Sugo, but Uru appears and freezes them. He asks Sugo not to interfere in their efforts to bring about a new king. Sugo realizes Uru is a time-jacker. Uru introduces himself and explains how he changed the should-be-dead basketballer's timeline and made his time start again. Sugo says while the hands of a clock can be stopped, started and turned back, human life cannot. And the basketballer is the only one who can decide his own future. Uru says that's a very interesting thing for him to say, but it's very Zi-O. He looks forward to seeing what future Sugo decides for himself. Uru leaves and Sugo and Geis henshin. The four riders stand side by side, but Sento and Ryuga are forced to dehenshin. They say their powers are disappearing, so they will leave the rest to Sugo and Geis. Another build takes Sugo into the ground, but Geis uses his ghost watch to save Sugo. Sugo realizes he can use the build watch as well. Waz appears and says that using the watch means Sugo has accepted inheriting build's power. He says that according to the book, Sugo's victory depends upon taking the responsibility that comes with that power. Sugo accepts. He locks the watch into his driver and gets his build armor. Was proclaimed Sugo's inheriting of his first rider power. Sento shows Sugo how to do his pose before Sugo charges at another build. Sugo and Geis work together to wear another build down. Sugo tries what Sento whispered for him to do. He pretends to crank his driver and he delivers a vortex time break at another build with Geis' extreme shot helping to finish him off for good. The basketballer is back in his regular human form and the another build watch is destroyed. Geis asks Sugo why he had the build watches since they're not supposed to have them in the first place. Sugo asks Sento to take the 2 watches. Sento says his name is Katsuragi Takumi. But he'll take the watches just the same. Sugo tells Geis that he doesn't know what's going on, other than that the blank watches will become the build watch in the future. Even if history changes, Sento will still choose the path to becoming build and Ryuga will still become Cross Z. Takumi and Ryuga wave goodbye to Sugo and Geis as they fly back to 2018. Back in 2018, Geis and Tsukuyumi are still confused about Sugo and how he could become Ohma Zi-O. Geis notes that Sugo defeated another build, but Kamen Rider build disappeared from history. And Sugo obtained the build watch. Thus, he's still on the path towards Ohma Zi-O. Next morning, Uncle Junichiro wakes Sugo for breakfast and introduces him to their 2 new boarders, Tsukuyumi and Geis. Tsukuyumi says she will be observing Sugo closely to see if he really will become Ohma Zi-O. Geis, meanwhile, warns Sugo that he's just itching to take him out. Was teases that the next Legend Rider guest star is Emu.